Hello, this is 2-2, finding perimeter and area of 2D shapes. So if you recall, 2D shapes are flat shapes. In other words, they're shapes that exist on a single plane with just an x and a y-axis. So what is perimeter and area? Perimeter you can think of as the outline. So this yellow part here. While area is the space that it covers. So all the space in between. Using the perimeter as the walls and the area as the actual room. Okay, so there are a couple shapes that we're going to learn about. For perimeter, it's pretty straightforward for every shape other than the circle, which we'll talk about now. For example, if you see a square, which is marked with these marks on every side, which show that each of these sides are equal length. For example, if this side was 10, then this side is also 10, this side is also 10, this side is also 10. So defining the perimeter of a square is pretty straightforward. All you need to do is add the sides up. So in this case, we denote each side with L. So the perimeter of a square is 4L. So in this case, L equals 10, so we can replace it with 10. 4 times 10 is 40. So the perimeter of this square is 40 units. If you had, say, something like this, each side being the same, and this was 2, since this is 5 sides, it is a pentagon. The perimeter is 5L, which is 5 times 2 in this case, which is 10. What you can think about this is that this side is 2, this side is 2, this side is 2, this side is 2, this side is 2. 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 10, and that is the entirety of these lines added together. So we won't go much into the rest of the shapes because it's very straightforward. Just add up all the lengths, and the number that you get is the perimeter. Also realize that the perimeter is measured in units, not units squared, because length is one-dimensional. It only goes this way or that way. Alright, now we're going to talk about the circle. Circle is defined as all points equidistant or equal distance from a single center point. So in this case, this is the center of the circle. You can think of all of these lines being the same length because each of these are the same distance from the circle. The distance from the center to any point on the line is called the radius, denoted with a lowercase r. The distance between one point to another point that passes through the center of the circle is called the diameter and is denoted with a lowercase d. You may have realized that the diameter is exactly 2 times the radius. If you have the diameter, if you're given the diameter, and you need the radius for a certain formula, divide the diameter by 2, halve the diameter, so say it was 10, then the radius is 5, and use the radius equals 5 in your calculations. The perimeter of a circle has a special name, the circumference. The circumference is equal to the diameter times pi, or 2 times the radius times pi. What is pi? Pi is about 3.14. We use pi equals 3.14 for many calculations, but in the homework, you will be asked for the perimeter, for the area, and stuff like the volume. All the things that require you to use pi, you will answer in terms of pi. So for example, if the radius was 8, we'd use this equation. 2 times the radius, which is 8, times pi is 16 pi. Okay, so now we're going to learn to plug in this information. Let's say we had a circle with diameter 3. I want you to tell me what the circumference is. The circumference is d pi in terms of pi. If you answered 3 pi, you'd be correct, because we were given that the diameter is 3 units. So wherever you see diameter, replace it with 3. And then you move the pi, and you get 3 pi. Here's another example. The radius is 4. What is the circumference? If you said 8 pi, you'd be correct. If the radius is 4, the diameter should be 8. 8 times pi is the circumference. An alternative way of doing this is to use the radius equation. 2 times the radius times pi. 2 times 4, since 4 is the radius, times pi. 2 times 4 is 8 times pi. Of course, if you're told to use 3.14 as pi, you would multiply 8 times 3.14. And you may be asked to round to a certain number of digits. But in this case, all you need to do is 8 pi. You can leave it at that. Okay, now let's look at the area. So the only shapes that you'll be asked the area of will be the square, the rectangle, the triangle, and the circle. Let's start with the square. If each side is represented with a lowercase l, then the area, or the space inside, would be L times L, or L squared. So for example, if L equals 3, you do L times L times L, which is 3 times 3, which equals 9, which means that in total there are 9 units squared. Again, area is in units squared. While perimeter is in units. Notice I used the units. If a specific measurement is given, for example 10 centimeters, then you replace centimeters with units. Replace units with centimeters. All right. Another example, given that this is a square and each side is equal, and one side is equal to 3 units. No, actually we've done 3. Let's do 4 units. What is the area? Pause the video and give it a try. This is super easy. L times L. L is 4 times L is 4. 4 times 4, that's 16. So the area is 16 units squared. Great. All right. Let's do another question. The side is 6 units. What is the area? Well, L times L. L is equal to 6 units. 6 times 6 is 36 units squared. All right, great. Now let's move on to rectangles. There are 2 parts of a rectangle. The bottom is called the base, and the sides are called the height. These are interchangeable, so if the rectangle was flipped 90 degrees to look like this, then this could be the base, this could be the height, and nothing would change. To find the area, you simply have to multiply the base and the height. Let's do a couple of examples. Say that this is a rectangle, and this side is 3, this side is 5. What is the area? Simple. Base times height. The base is 5, and the height is 3. 5 times 3, that's 15 units squared. Great. Since this is very similar to the square, we'll move on. This is a circle. This is the radius. The area of a circle is pi times the radius squared. What does squared mean? Squared means the thing that's being squared times itself twice. So in this case, r to the squared is the same as pi times r times r. Okay, so say we had a circle with the radius 3. What's the area in terms of pi? Well, just plug it into this equation, pi r squared. That's pi times 3 squared. And using PEMDAS, we need to do exponents first. Pi times 3 squared, 3 times 3, which is 9 times pi, 9 pi. Great, let's do one more example. What's the area? Well, plug it into this equation, pi r squared and it becomes 36 pi units squared. Great. As for a triangle, there are a couple things that you need to know. This is called the height. This is called the base. The area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. Why is this? Well, if you think of this part, by the way, the height is from one vertex to the bottom at a right angle. Think of this part and use it right here. Well, what does that become? Well, it becomes a rectangle. What's the area of a rectangle? Base times height. In this case, this part, just this part, is 1/2 of the base. Whoops. So we need to multiply 1/2 of the base times the height. So that's where we get this equation. All right. What is the area of this triangle? Well, we can plug it into the equation. 1/2, the base is 6, the height is 3. And that gives us 9. You may be saying, why is this 5 here? This 5 is not necessary. We could still do the question without this. I added this 5 to make sure that you understand that we do not use this side when calculating the area of this particular triangle. So on the homework, if you see a number that you don't need, just ignore it. All right, that's all I have for you today. If any questions, make sure to ask. The homework is due on Friday, and there'll be a test on Friday on this as well.